Did you make that bet with?
No.
If it's three is not gonna be enough. I'm telling you.
No, he bet. He said all of them. I mean, and now he's lying as usual. The guy wants to play tomorrow.
Trump
you know what? He's a typical Zionist. He doesn't want to pay. You know what? You know, for money, he's willing to give up everything. You know, these people are known around the world that they're willing to sell everything for money.
Why would I be refusing to pay if it hasn't happened yet?
He's not a man of his word. Come on. It's just fucking $50, man. You're gonna lose your credit. You put your credibility on fucking $50 on it. Pay the $50. Relax. Get yourself out.
Did you? Are you putting your credibility on what just came out of your mouth, Udia? Are you possessed with
your imam,
Jews?
see your priest, see your rabbi, see your shaman, see your spiritual guru. I don't know.
How many of you guys? By the way,
go to Peru. Getting like a deal.
Paul, what do you think?
Peyote, ayahuasca, take something, man.
What do you think?
You need it.
Who here thinks? Do you think we're gonna bomb Iran, Noy?
I think it's gonna be on. If they don't do what they say, they're gonna. You know what Trump said? He's not playing around, man.
I hear you.
I think it's gonna. It's gonna be all hell. Like he said, you heard what he said.
All hell's gonna break loose.
Yeah, that shit gonna be crazy, man. We'll see what they do. They might not give a fuck, yo. You know. What you think? What you think?
I think that the Palestinians are going to offer 3, but if I had to guess, I'm sure they'll give 3. Pretty sure. But I think they'll be in bad shape like the last ones. It's going to get people really upset to see how badly they treated them. And I have a feeling the little boy and girl that they're holding, one is 2, one is 4. I have a feeling they're like dead. And now they're up. Now they're in a position of having to.
Yeah, they might be dead already. I agree with you. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, that's all right. That's all right. And then
they might be dead already.
That's the scary thing. Yeah. And then I think there'll be war. If that happens.
Bro, he's Trump. You see, he's ready to lead us to the world, yo.
It's weird. After he said he wouldn't.
Yeah, but I think he'll go to World War, whatever, for that. So we'll see. He talks a lot too. I don't know, man. We'll see.
Yeah, I would say some of the stuff he says is crazy, but then now we're getting to know him, and he's changed. His personality is different this time than it was in his first administration.
And it was his first time. Yeah, I noticed that too. His personality is different, right?
Yeah. Maybe it's because he was shot, Like that could change you.
Yeah.
Are you referring to me? Sorry.
If he didn't plan to get shot, if that wasn't all planned, but that's another story.
And I would not put that past him, to tell you the truth.
I wouldn't either. Because I honestly think that was planned. Anybody else would have caught it and would have been done.
Yes.
Like, that takes professionals. Somebody that's a professional to just do it, and let it, what's the word? Yeah, it's to just skim them like that. That's a professional. There's no way.
Anyways, El Normo.
Yes.
Why do you support?
Hold on. That didn't happen to John F. Kennedy. Sorry, Paul.
Yeah, because something in my life doesn't happen to you, doesn't make it less credible. Anyways,
I agree.
So that was a very poor point, and even though I don't like Trump because of his despicable stance on Gaza, you can't just say rubbish about him.
Paul, which point is that?
You said that.
Don't mute me, because I don't mute you anymore in other rooms.
You said that the shooting that happened with Trump is fake because it didn't happen with John F. Kennedy. What the actual hell is that?
I was using that. Okay, he heard me, right?
But you know that was stupid. That was a very.
That was just a supporting example.
The support was weak. Don't say that again.
Oh, was it? Because
yes,
it made sense. It made sense to me. It made sense.
Of course, it's gonna make sense to you.
Thank Thank you.
Saying rubbish.
Well, anything I said doesn't make sense to Paul, so whatever.
Because nothing you say makes sense, and El Normo is the only person without a brain in this room is the only person that understands the rubbish that you said.
I let her get away with this because she's a good person, but
I am
anybody
a good
else,
person.
Paul, you heard me before. Anybody else, I would have cursed them out. Okay, good. Any other female?
You know how women are. Sometimes they just talk like that. We gotta let them talk.
Paul's like this every day. Every freaking day. She's crazy. But anyway. So, yeah, bro, but that's all I'm saying. But I mean, I could be wrong. You know, none of us, bro. Shit, I don't know. I don't know the moral person. I wasn't there, so. I'm not behind it, so I mean, I don't know. Could it have? It could have been a conspiracy. It could have been real. I don't see how the people behind them didn't get hit. Why didn't they get hit?
No, one guy got killed.
Oh, yeah.
The fireman.
Oh, shit.
The fireman.
Oh shit! I gotta go back and listen. Word? I missed it.
Like he protected his family. Yeah.
Wait, when the first shots went off, he got hit too?
The fireman behind him got killed.
Got killed. Okay, yep. I gotta go back.
Remember, the only reason why you support Trump is because he supports Israel's genociding mission to kill all Palestinians. That is the only reason why you support Trump. I know.
I didn't say I
No, Paul, you got it all wrong. It's a humanitarian mission. These people, you call it ethnic cleansing. Okay, like you guys need to stop with that. We're just going to relocate these people. They're going to be in a better place and it'll be all nice. And, you know, just, guys, stop it. Come on. It's a humanitarian mission. The Israelis love you people.
Going to build them nice houses. Well, Trump is not Israeli. He's a real estate guy. He's being realistic.
Yeah. He's being realistic, and it's like, come on, this is a humanitarian.
He's being realistic.
We need to relocate.
This is crazy right now.
No, it's over. They gotta relocate. I'm serious.
Nah, I agree with him. Yeah, like I'm not even.
Because I would have to disagree with that point unless you have some sort of data on that. But I have been among the homeschooling community, and there are a lot of kids out there that do have.
Fair enough point. I mean, I didn't mean to pick on the states like that. I should have to include North America, so Canada as well as Canada as well as America. It's just from my daily observations. I just see how people are very quickly taken up with political ideologies and passionate speeches. Seem to be saying anything at all. Very non-specific, very non-concrete.
He's like, I'll trust that little white boy.
It takes a lot of time, it takes research, it takes a lot of hard work. And my general opinion is that human beings generally aren't critical thinkers unless they're forced to be. And in this manner, we're more kind of emotional thinkers, tribalistic thinkers. If I can be so crude. Yeah, that's
Do you have children or
go to RogerMayhem.com to see more of the Roger Mayhem Movie and Experience podcast. That's RogerMayhem.com.
We often think that it's the state or the country, the school to teach our children these things, but it's not, and it's a parent's responsibility if they don't have the capacity or the bandwidth or the time to teach your children. A lot of them will send their kids to certain schools that have that type of curriculum. Others, which is the masses, believe that it's the school's job to teach your children how to do these things. But if you're a parent and you already feel this way,
he probably wanted to use state force, but he didn't want to be a dictator. So he asked them to voluntarily do it at the local level in their local governments, through their local physical education. And actually, about 5,000 schools across, 5,000 to 10,000 schools across, something like 3,000 to 5,000 schools across America, took his statement so seriously that almost all of their...
You'll know this one day if you decide you want to be what he's doing and saying. you will take it upon yourself to make sure your child knows critical thinking.
Yeah, and that's how I was raised. My dad was a lawyer, so from a very young age, he made me an extremely skeptical human being, for sure. Yeah.
The best way of creating critical thinking is exposing people to information. That's it.
Yeah.
But what are you skeptical about, Mind Virus?
I'm skeptical about a lot of things. So I am skeptical about.
Are you not a man? Do you think maybe you're not a man?
Oh, well, that's a good question. I'm not even sure about that, brother.
It's kind of a trick question because, like, there's a divine man. I mean, many people may not be aware of, the divine man. But do you think we technically have two brains?
Yeah, I think we have, like, the frontal cortex and like the rest of our brain. And the frontal cortex is...
The penis is the second one.
Yeah, that's the second one. The rest of the brain... Yeah, the amygdala is basically like the penis. We have the, trying to...
But that's a trick question, too, because the whole bodily system is one. There's no differentiation. It all works in total conjunction.
No, it doesn't. If you have a mental illness, you very quickly realize that your brain fights against itself.
No, I mean, all the unconscious operations are still happening, whether or not you have a mental illness or not. You're still breathing, your heart pumping, like, all those things. It's all one system doing that.
Well, let me give you an example. So if someone has post-traumatic stress disorder, like such as myself, right? So I understand that if I go into certain situations or do certain things, that my mind automatically reacts in a kind of negative way, right? Kind of an alarmist way. At the same time, I realize that this reaction is very erroneous and just kind of nonsensical. So that's the part of my brain that, like, looks back at itself, the metacognitive reflective sense, that's the frontal cortex. Whereas, if you see something on the ground and you think it's a snake and you jump automatically and it's a very quick reaction, that's kind of your amygdala. So we can be both critical thinkers as well as emotionally driven, tribalistic, superstitious beings. We can be scientists.
Yeah, but the problem with categorizing the brain and calling it the amygdala, the corpus callosum, or doing bodily anatomy, is you're still just doing categorization. So by bucketing the body, you're not really understanding what I'm trying to get at by talking about an enclosed system of oneness or unity. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's like a miracle. I mean, we are automation in itself. Like, we are the automation that we're trying to build. We're already fully automated. It's just, like, remarkable.
Yeah, that's amazing. But getting back to this German thing, Vance, he met with this party, which the ADL, Anti-Defamation League, is really concerned about. They sort of view them as how would I say, not neo-Nazi sympathizers, which is kind of weird, because Vance is very pro-Israel. It's kind of a weird situation. I was wondering if anybody else could make sense of this.
I've been talking a lot, but put me in the queue because I have been recording Elon Musk discussing AFD and his involvement in German politics.
Yeah, so the AFD, this party that Vance met with, I mean, Issa has a different opinion from me, which is fine. I mean, she knows more about Germany than I do. She's in Europe, but it seems that Issa, is it not radical to say that maybe people in this party are basically want Germany for the Germans, purebred German people?
It's exactly the same as America First. That's the message.
Right.
Germany for the Germans.
I really agree with that.
That's it.
It's the same message. It's nationalism.
Message is exactly that. Now, here in Europe is so communist or so socialist or so to the left that anything that has a touch of of right leaning ideology is called far right, and it's called neo-Nazi. Right. It's absurd. This is why I say you need critical thinking.
It's basically, what's that syndrome called, or what's that technical term for the moment when somebody calls you a Nazi? Like you time it, and it's got a, what is the hell? Somebody just mentioned it yesterday again. You know what I'm talking about? It's like it's got a technical
like
term.
labeling someone so that you can shut down conversation.
No, it's got a
I do
technical.
that in Clubhouse all the time.
It's got a technical term.
Yeah.
No, but it's more than racist, because Nazi historically is the pure evil, and so it's like really, it's more than racist. It's a historical label of extreme evil. So because basically what you're saying, when somebody says that to you, technically they're calling you anti-American, which is the weirdest thing in the world, because it took the Allied forces to defeat the evil of Axis, or essentially Adolf Hitler, the source of the hate.
Yeah, and I mean, certainly there's got to be still some Germans who are kind of really sour about that, yeah.
But how do you view Germany today in terms of hate? Because you would expect the society.
There you go. That's what the question is, right? That's the question.
Yeah, that's the question. But see, that's the problem is after a while you kind of get annoyed when you keep seeing things in the news of people getting stabbed, raped, or murdered. And you're like, okay, we have a problem here. And we can't keep keeping our heads in the clouds or putting our head in the sand like a fucking, ostrich. Like you have to face facts. The violation of the law is an epidemic, and it's really these mental health young men. A lot of them are Muslims, a lot of them are Africans or whatever the fuck they are, but they are out there, accosting people in the streets, and no matter even if you put them in a castle, they're still going to be on the streets. Like these are mentally deranged people that need to be hospitalized and permanently incarcerated.
So Alan, that's an interesting question, because a lot of these guys end up being, they actually are mentally ill, and new people to Europe, like just completely, I don't know. I lived in Japan for
Islam is
10
called the mental illness.
No. So I think that's my question. Hold on. That's my question, because just because some of these guys are Muslim and they're out of place in a new area of the world. Wait, hold on.
98% of them are Muslim.
Right. But if they do these crimes and then no, hold on a second, please. Can you let me finish here? Because a lot of these guys might be mentally ill, and then they go and kill people, and then they say, oh yeah, I am a part of ISIS. And ISIS, like, who the fuck are these guys? Oh yeah, okay, we'll claim them. They were never a part of any organized, Islamic group or anything like that. They're just crazy people killing people because they think they're getting messages from God,
Yeah, just like Nora.
Who's Nora?
Oh my god. Isa, tell her about Nora.
Yeah.
You should meet Nora. She was in the news last week.
Listen, it's like religious ecstasy. That's the problem. A lot of these people taken out of their impoverished nations, put into the middle of a very high standard living of city in the Western world. A lot of them have religious ecstasy. They're very low IQ, and we might label that, mental health illness. But when you are sexually attacking people or touching people or talking to people inappropriately, it's not just autism. This is like a severe problem. And whether there's a connection between Islam, the Quran, or content or media and Muslims, it's irrelevant. When you start getting in somebody's face and accosting them in the streets, you're out of society, in my opinion. We need police to do their jobs. We need politicians and judges and lawyers to do their jobs and remove the dangerous people amongst us in society who are impacting us in the streets.
Here, hold on.
So,
Your other phones, Alan.
yeah, so Vance met with these guys, from the far right party, and I mean, to what degree or not?
What up? How's it going, Aaron? How are you?
Complex, how are you?
I'm good. I'm in another room underneath the profile name Alan Watts, talking about Elon Musk's involvement with AfD, a political far-right extremist group in Germany.
Yeah.
So I'm just like a little bee. I'm just buzzing around, Alan Watts says even a gnat or a horsefly that you come into contact with, there's no coincidences. So I don't know. I mean, I get the feeling we're definitely living in a Bob simulation.
Yeah. Yeah. And so now what?
I don't know. I just keep going back to meditation. And I heard Alan Watts say something interesting today. He said, "This is the interesting thing about listening and sound is you can't hear the past, you can't hear the future. So the now is the all, and it is the source of solving all problems. Everyone else running around with their heads off is not in the now. There's no other place to solve a problem. And so the problem is words and panicking and fearing fear, but it's really silence is essentially the equilibrium or the balance that the philosophy, of ageless wisdom is trying to communicate, which is harmony, peace, bliss, joy. Life is joy. That is essentially the message. So people who are acting outside of an equilibrium or a balance or a center of gravity are not as effective as they could be if they were to learn the art of meditation.
Okay. Okay, I've got nothing to argue with about that.
Yeah, I read something in the Tao Te Ching. It said the way to the center of the universe, or the way to the center of the gravity of the universe. So that would have to be the most balanced position or point in reality. So I don't know people who are unaware of that and are constantly disrupting their positive vibration or their balance. Um, I just hope they I hope they have the knowledge so they can essentially course correct a lot of their behavior or activity, or what they're saying or how ridiculous they're being. It's kind of a double-edged sword,
Yeah. Okay.
meaning that you can use it for evil. I mean, that's the thing is Alan Watts was very dynamic. He was, he believed that you could be the Joker or the fool based on how bad the situation is. Like in war, having a secret police or doing something to that extent to save the country or the population. I mean, maybe, like it's like the Bhagavad Gita, basically, arguing with God. I can't kill my cousin. Yeah, you got to do it. Have faith. So it's, nobody wants to hurt anybody, but, it's like that kill or be killed. I mean, it's the art of war, I suppose.
Well, you got a whole lot of theories going there. A whole lot of words. Yep.
But what do I know? I'm just a bee flying amongst the flowers, spreading,
Well, you
positive
sound like
vibrations.
you think you know a whole bunch of stuff. You're saying all sorts of these things like they actually mean something and you actually know it's true. I don't know. Do you?
No, because those who know do not say, and those who say do not know. So, I mean, silence is the
Why are
truth.
you saying all this stuff?
Because you like Alan Watts, and I spend 7 days a week listening to Alan Watts. This is fraternity. This is what's called fraternity.
Yeah, I've listened to a lot. Well, Watts is the most important being in the universe to me. He's the guy that woke me up. So, I guess. Although I don't agree with everything he said. I listen to him now and I think, well, he was talking a long time ago. I think there's a lot of things that could be said better than he said them. Well, not a lot, but some things anyway.
What is your critique? And then I'll tell you my critique. Like, how would you compare him in 2025? Like, if he was alive now, what would he say about his past work?
Yeah, I don't know.
Is it the ecology thing, like climate, ecology, sciences?
No, I'm pretty much in agreement with him. There's just some language that he uses that I find unproductive. Yeah.
Do you find him to be very conservative? Because I find him to actually now in 2025 to be very conservative when you compare him, I guess, with the average today.
The average what today?
Just the average American society that he was lecturing to, talking to. Because back then, people might have called him a liberal hippie, the Protestants. But today, the Protestants are all studying him. So that's the thing about Watts is he's pure energy.
Are all studying Watts. Where did you get that piece of information?
They're all, because one time I was very depressed and I went to this former business mentor and he sent me a lecture by some Protestant preacher and he was quoting Watts over and over and over again.
Yeah, well, that's one. I think that's quite rare. I don't think most.
No, it's got to be because many Christians are completely clueless. And so Watts is like the missing link to a lot of their lower education. He very quickly brings people up to speed on essentially illuminated Christ, you know.
That's entirely possible. I just don't have any experience of that.
He's compression. See, that's the thing is he himself and his whole message, all his communication, it's incredible compression because he took his bibliography, all his reading lists, all his experiences. When you listen to him on YouTube, that's compression.
Yeah, well, that's what we all do.
I know, but some of us can't do it in the way that he did it with such incredible intelligence.
No, clearly, Alan Watts was special.
Yeah, I mean, he was a genius. He really was he was a word genius. He was a linguistic genius. I mean, you don't think so? I mean, he took the information from around the world and made it logical.
Great job. Well, my background is linguistics, and when you start talking what something is, I just check out because the verb to be is bullshit. You can't say what something is. Language just simply doesn't go there.
So tell me about this experiment that I'm gonna run. I bought all these books on grammar, and I'm going to essentially create grammar hypnosis because technical grammar is essentially describing the words we use. So it's like the most ridiculous thing to talk about because it doesn't describe anything other than the words that we're already using. So I'm going to explore grammar as a 42-year-old and see what I can discover by communicating technical grammar.
To hear what you come up with.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, $5-6 books on eBay. I mean, I recently became interested in this because I was trying to discover the difference between the words however, but, or and there's all these different conjunctives, and they're technically different. And so it's just, there's like a logic to our English language, and I want to discover more about the technical aspects of how we're communicating.
No, that's worth investigating. Have you listened to that podcast of mine, The 5 Stupidities of English?
No, I haven't heard that one. Is it on YouTube or? I mean, I've looked at your stuff.
It's the first link in that Linktree document above. Yeah, it's on YouTube. Actually, I think it's in the Apple podcast. I'm not sure where it is, but the link to it is above. The first 3 links all go together. The first link is the audio, and the second and the third link are little demonstrations of one of the 5 stupidities. I think you might find that interesting. And I would suggest you take notes when you're listening so that you may have questions or your own observations on this stuff. So if we talk again, if you have some notes, we can jump right into it.
Okay, let me look at it real quick. So this is not an Apple phone, this is an Android, and so Google Podcasts is no longer a product according to the link I just clicked.
Did you just click on the link in the Linktree document?
Yeah, go ahead and try it. I mean, you may not be able to see this because it's a Google podcast, but Google Podcast is no longer available. So what it does is it redirects you to YouTube Music, which then there's no link to your Google podcast. Maybe you knew that, but I can't view the Apple on this phone.
I don't know. I've never had any problem using it. Nobody else has had a problem, so I'm not quite sure.
Can you maybe put it on YouTube? Like download the audio and then re-upload it?
Oh, yeah, I think it is on YouTube. Actually, I think if you just do a look for the 5 stupidities or something or my name, I think it is on YouTube.
Let me check. Because if it is, I mean, I'll go through it and I'll listen to it. And what I like to do now is speed things up to like 1.25 or 1.5, and then you're literally cutting, the time in half, which to me is amazing.
Yeah, but you're also cutting your thinking time in half too.
Well, technically, see, if you were to send me the transcript of your YouTube and I were to look at that.
Yeah, that's a whole different thing. I don't want people reading it. I want them listening. Reading is an entirely different space than listening.
I know, but I'm saying I can listen to it, or see, that's the thing is I want to also look at a transcript because if I want to pull stuff out and throw it into ChatGPT to expand it, you know, that would be one way that I could come back at you with more interesting questions.
All that. I would suggest just listen to it the first time and take notes.
Okay, let me see if I can find it on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know what to tell you about. I haven't checked for a while, and actually, let me see here. Oh, I guess I don't have the Apple Podcast thing on my phone anymore, so I just.
Yeah, I found it. I'll put it in the chat. Let me check it out.
If you have the Apple or the podcast, and there's always this stupid.
Let me tell you this little story first, because I think this is a good place to start. A man and his son were coming home from a soccer game one Saturday afternoon, and they were involved in a head-on collision. The father was killed instantly.
It's on some weird like German YouTube account. I put the link in the chat when I search for it.
I don't know what's going on. I'm a little confused here. This is not working. Yeah, this is not working right. I don't know what's going on here. I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, YouTube or Google killed their podcast product, and
Well, I don't know. It was never on Google as far as I knew. It was on Apple podcast thing, but it's not playing right now. I'll have to look into it and see.
Yeah, no worries. Anyways, I put the link in the chat for what I found on YouTube. Somebody has your video on their YouTube account, but I'll listen to it and then I'll get back to you about what it is.
Hold on, let me take a look at it.
Yeah, you introduce.
Okay, yeah, that's it. That's the right thing. So.
Okay, well, let me listen to it and I'll get back to you.
I'm not sure. There are like 3 different versions. I kept editing it down, because the first one had a whole bunch of ums and ahs and long silences that I cut out. It started off at like an hour, 15 minutes, and the final version is 56 minutes now. So I don't know which one this is, but in any case, it's starting off right. So yeah.
Yeah, I've been past 2 weeks. I've read the Tao Te Ching, and I've been reading Aleister Crowley's Book of Wisdom or Folly, and that's been very interesting. A lot of capitalized words in there, like just nonstop proper nouns of words, to denote God, I suppose, like the word that. Just so many words he's capitalizing. But yeah, the Tao Te Ching is amazing. I've been creating these 15-second clips on YouTube and reading the Tao, getting thousands of views, and I'm trying to encourage other people on this app to also do what I'm doing, and it's going pretty good. There was a guy on this app a few years ago who used to read the Tao Te Ching and have people read it on this app all the time, and yeah, people really should read the Tao because I feel like it's a missing key to a lot of people's, religious education. A lot of Christians really need to read the Tao because they just don't see the overlay or the
I don't
parallel.
think everybody's destined for the kind of future that you and I are headed to. I think a lot of people are committed to their old path and they're going to die serving their old path, and that's their destiny. Most people are not going to wake up. They're going to finish out their story.
What do you think about the people in China? Like, do they know you don't know? I've never been to China, so I don't know what kind of books they read or what kind of. There must be a lot of Buddhists. I mean, out of 1.3 billion people.
I don't think so. I don't think there's much in the way of religion or anything like that. I mean, there may be, but I know a few people from China. I used to teach ESL, so I had dealt with a lot of people from China. I never met one who had the slightest interest in anything you would call spiritual or anything like that.
Really, I
But there
mean,
may be some. I just never ran into it.
it's basically philosophy, so it would be a very small percentage of the population that studies philosophy. But at 1.4 billion people, there's always like 0.001, which is still 14 million people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, like I say, we're headed into the biggest change this planet has ever seen in the next 10, 20 years. So it ought to be pretty interesting to see how this plays out.
Well, Watts, in this one clip, he says, I've often speculated that planets created nuclear energy, then blew the planet up, and that's how stars are created and new planets are formed.
Yeah, there's a clear example of nonsense that Watts was spouting. He lived a long time ago. They didn't know shit about anything. I mean, they knew some stuff, but that was a very primitive universe he lived in.
Yeah, but the Tao is so eternal and smart because it's universal. I mean, the Earth, core is not just the Earth. I mean, it took the universe to create the Earth, so there's something so much far beyond just the Earth. I mean, the Earth is we came out of it.
Earth is a living organism, as I see it. Earth, in fact, I think Earth is about to become conscious.
But it is conscious because we are the extension of that Earth.
Well, that's your story. I have a slightly different story. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're not. Maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm not.
What's your variation then? Or what is your idea?
I think Earth is a living organism that's undergoing something similar to metamorphosis. I think we have the same relationship to the planet that the astrocytes, I don't know if there are certain kind of neurons in your brain, the same relationship that astrocytes have to the brain. We are building Earth's brain right now.
So Watt says when you start cutting the atom, it becomes parasites on parasites on parasites. So it also goes in this opposite direction. I mean, we're just ants living on a super consciousness known as planet Earth to us, and we give it the name Earth, which is Earth. I think it's interesting that it's the first three letters are ear. I don't think that's a coincidence.
Maybe not. I think it has something to do with Erde in German. I don't think it has anything at all to do with ear.
Well, I live in Chicago, and I live near the Polish Copernicus Center, and they have an old Copernican map, and they have the astral chart, and they show Earth as Tierra, which is like Spanish, I believe, for Earth. So, this is what I was going to tell you. Is what's interesting about reading Crowley is there's this one chapter in Book of Wisdom or Folly where he mentions that Muhammad, that basically Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad were extremely powerful magicians, and Muhammad overturned Christendom, and so he was a powerful magician or wizard, and the Quran is essentially a magic book. King James Bible, magic book. The 5 books of Moses, magic books, meaning that they deal with nature and essentially occult wisdom or astrology, so to speak, which is really universal, meaning that it goes out into the galaxy. So what Crowley is saying is that he is the newest prophet, and that you should worship him and join his church of Thelema or his cult of Thelema, but he's comparing himself to these prophets, and it's just interesting how he kind of competitively reframes these 3 major prophets, but he's also talking about Lao Tzu and Zoroaster and any great religious holy man or prophet that is essentially has a large historical impact. He brings up Napoleon as having the Holy in Spirit. He says the word Napoleon is French for lion in the thicket. So it's like the Holy Spirit, meaning that people who rise to power are endued with this hypothetical spirit. You could say it about any major historical world leader that has risen to power. But that's what I read in Crowley, and I had never heard. He praises Muhammad, saying he wants to do away with Christianity. Crowley wants to do away with it. But anyways, I'm just saying, you could view Christianity and Catholicism as being, a Roman absorption, Western. But anyways, I'm just saying that I don't know. That's what I read in Crowley, and I was like, wow, this is. I had never heard it put this way. That this is magic. It's occult sciences, and he's saying that all these world leaders essentially utilize natural magic to obtain or do their powerful acts upon the earth.
Okay. Yeah.
It's kind of like basically it's a way of categorization again, or labeling. But it's just, I found it interesting. I really like occult science, esoteric philosophy books because it's like large language models. It's like it's like words to the third. It's wordplay really. And there's so many books that many people on a first time read can never understand what it's talking about because it's associated to many other books.
Well, like I said, you just gotta. Yeah, my intellectual life is far simpler. It used to be much more complex, but I prefer a much simpler approach to all this stuff these days. So
I'm creating content. Like I am recording these clips onto YouTube, reading these esoteric philosophy books because I am technically using them to hypnotize people to create a network of an interested audience.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Keep it up.
Yeah, it's the way I look at it. Is I'm not like involved in Freemasonry or any. I just want to sit in my apartment and meditate and try to hypnotize people and eventually make money through Google.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good luck.
But it's really just the communications business, and that's kind of, in my opinion, what everybody's doing. Every banker, when J.P. Morgan and Jamie Dimon says, "Get back into office and learn the culture and hard work and get in the," okay, you guys are all just working on communication, anyways. You guys don't actually make anything. I mean, Watts was a proponent of modern monetary theory, which is just, print and keep printing. Who cares? I mean, he would still advocate for responsibility, but I think that, he would say we're wasting a lot of money in this country on unnecessary things. But then there's the flip side of that, where if we were to issue a minimum basic income, we could maybe do it responsibly. But the point is, we can alleviate a lot of suffering through paper dollars. And unfortunately, it goes with the tide, whether it's left or right. So it's an interesting scientific or economic question or a finance question about, fiat currency, central banks, and responsibility and waste and morality and ethics. There's a lot there's a lot of importance in the dollar in terms of symbolic significance, I suppose.
I expect all that to be gone in the next 20 years, maybe sooner, we'll see. Capitalism, I suspect, has run its course. But the transition to whatever's coming next ought to be, well, probably a little difficult. It's going to be interesting to watch what happens when capitalism collapses.
But how's it going to collapse? If you look at Roman coinage, that's capitalism. Anything with capital is capitalism. So how do you remove capitalism? I don't understand. Or how do you change it?
Well, I should say corporate capitalism. It's not capitalism, in its most general sense, but corporate capitalism. It's time for it to end. And, yeah, well, we'll see. I don't know how this is going to work out. I've got a bunch of stories in my own predictions about how I think things are going. I can't prove anything. They're just the stories that make sense to me. And that's enough. We'll see what happens. Things are coming down the tracks real fast right now, and they're coming down faster every week. So,
Well, Watts was alive during Soviet communism, so he says that the Soviet Union is one corporation, and the United States is 5,000 or 50,000 corporations, which is not necessarily accurate. I think Watts, in many ways, was he went with the flow. He wasn't going against the establishment. In many ways, that's why I respect him and think he's funny and awesome, because he's so subversive, but yet he doesn't really challenge authority, and he goes with the flow of the times. And so, I mean, there's really interesting recordings of him talking about the Great Depression and fiat currency, and how it's really just a concept. It's not the real wealth. The real wealth is the bread and the chickens and the milk and the housing and the clothing.
Yeah, I've listened to everything Watts has said at least 10 times, so I'm familiar with Watts.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a great mystic, a great sage. I mean, my uncle, introduced me to him, and I mean, my uncle, and I've even heard other people say that he is the Messiah. Um, I find it and he himself jokes about it in the recordings. Like, I think it's absolutely ridiculous that anybody would consider me a Messiah, but in this sense, I am actually playing the role of a Messiah. He created these legends on stage, and people for countless generations are going to find incredible peace and solitude and bliss in his information, because like I said, it's compression. So if you listen to Watts, he's an extraordinarily gifted hypnotist in many ways. He's a hypnotherapist.
That's certainly one way. Well, but that's true for most humans live in a state of linguistically induced hypnosis. So, I mean, to claim that is sort of trivial.
No, I mean, as a hypnotherapist, Alan Watts is reverse hypnotizing. He is reverse engineering people's hypnosis. That's the power of Watts. That's the energy and the wisdom he gives. And that's because of the perspective of the Tao and Taoism. It's essential psychology philosophy.
All nailed down. Everything is you got it all figured out, it sounds like. Why this and that and everything.
I think it's true, though, that it's hypnotherapeutic.
Yeah, I know. Well, you're welcome to that. You've got your beliefs and your way of thinking about things, and that's what you've come up with, and that seems to be working for you. So good. I've put together slightly different stories, but that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I like this conversation, and I know women don't like this conversation, or maybe they do. I don't know. I just get the feeling that, when I talk to women, if they open up, and you point out maybe some of the symbols, or you give them, not devil's advocate, but it's just yin and yang. I mean, it's like your PTR. I mean, if you know the I Ching or the Tao Te Ching, or you understand the void, or the pairing of opposites, or duality or non-duality. I mean, there is no other questions, and that's why I like when you say, well, okay, great. Like, what else? Then that's it. And it's like, yeah, that's it. And then you go back to meditation, and so it's like an on again, off again. But I don't know. I just every time I use Alan Watts' backdrop so much, that he is like the Tao, and he's just such a well of energy. It's just, I don't know. To me, he's just the most, like you said, he gave you your awakening, and maybe it's because I speak English and I like the way he sounds, but I can't really find anybody to match him. I just can't. He is so unique and special.
Well, everybody's unique. I mean, yeah. I mean, he's not unique in being unique. There are a lot of, but again, Watts is special for me because personally, because he's the guy that woke me up. So that has a place in my heart and mind that nobody else can ever, touch. He woke me up, and what else can I say about that? I still like listening to him. I don't listen to him often anymore, but I do once in a while, and I always enjoy it.
So when I create these YouTube clips, I'll read 15 seconds or 3 minutes. That's how long a short is on YouTube. And then when I stop and I'm, editing or whatever, like I'll put on Watts right away. So it like maintains a certain level. And then I can go right back into the reading. It's like he plays the backdrop because he has so many lectures on Taoism, that it corresponds so much with what I'm reading that I'll contrast it or really flow with it. And in terms of flow state, in modern psychology, it is amazing how modern psychology mirrors philosophy so much that I don't know how to. I've never treated people for depression, anxiety, but I've worked with friends who might be autistic, or, a lot of the art of the healer or the therapist is being comfortable with everything and people in particular, and not feeling afraid or being comfortable, to be with somebody that you may not want to be with, but you're doing it, maybe for their benefit, and maybe nothing happens, but maybe I think a lot of people who do improve, um, through information, because I think just therapy is basically just information. Um, that's the thing is I think there's a way to improve faster and better, and just many people are unwilling to try to pick up a book and basically program their mind for health, for success.
Most people are brain damaged language monkeys who are going to die in their present state of awareness, and they're not going to change or contribute much of anything. They're just going to live out their past, and then. But there's a growing number of people, young people, waking up, and they're the future. Most people over 40 are out of it, even over 30, I would say. It's the young people under 30 and the kids, really, are the ones who are going to create the new world. Yeah. Well, again, I don't know. These are just my predictions. I mean, maybe I'm totally wrong. I don't know. We'll see. And you don't need to mute your mic because you're in a quiet place. You can just leave it on.
No, I've got background music. I don't want to,
No, but I don't hear it.
Oh. So what this is an interesting thing that I did recently is I went on eBay and I bought a bunch of antique yearbooks from the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, from Harvard, from my college that I went to, the Citadel in Charleston, South Carolina. I bought yearbooks from West Point. And so we do have institutions that keep producing military officers, and we do keep having annual recruitment goals amongst all the military branches, and there's a tremendous amount of assets out there that have to maintain certain support service levels, for servicemen. And so that type of replication just keeps happening. But the amount of money that we have spent historically hasn't gone down on the defense industry. So from that regards, like if you think there's the younger generation, there's still a small percentage that is going into these armed services. And if you have enough history books, you know that all of human history is nothing but perpetual war. So Watts brings a lot of knowledge about peace and bliss, but also pragmatism, and he even advised generals on philosophical concepts about uh, about not greed, but self-interest, and that is the practical, pragmatic, optimistic. That is the common sense approach to all military strategy. Is self-interest, and for an officer, that's carry out commander's intent, protect the assets, protect the people. Primarily. I mean, it's staying alive. That's how you win. So, I'm just saying that. I just don't think that there is any real kind of shift in the youth today. In fact, I think maybe it's even worse because of the technological dopamine addiction and vape penning, these people to death. I mean, they're lurched over. Everyone is essentially looking at garbage algorithms on the internet, and no one is gaining any real true insight into self. and many people are just very vain, and that's really what it comes down to, is vanity. Is people don't understand, like like you say, or the belief that you are the universe observing itself, and so they're not awake or enlightened, and thus they're never really going to be as happy or have or fulfill the potential that they could possibly fulfill in their lives. And Crowley talks about essentially the will, and the law and love. So how do you come into the knowledge of your true will, or how do you exercise the will, which is really another word for the spirit of the universe? And so maybe people are doing this spiritual journey, and they're doing it in a better way now, and coming to these same realizations. But you can go into any room on this app, and I understand why you create these rooms, because you control the vibration. And so if you go elsewhere into this app, it will completely throw your vibration into not feeling good. So I just hope that people that aren't even using this app, young people in schools today, are aware of that. But I doubt they are, because they are trapped in basically a perpetual educational system, which is failing them, I suppose.
Yes, and some people somehow escape that, and others don't. Why is that?
I don't know. It's just the odds and averages, I suppose. It's a bell-shaped curve. 10% here, 10% there, 80% there. It's nature, really.
Well, like you say, I've got my own story for all this stuff. It's different than yours. I'm not really interested in changing your story, but I like mine better. Yeah, I think you should pursue what you're doing. I think it's different than what I'm doing, but that's okay. It's what you're doing, and so keep it up.
Yeah, I like what I'm doing, but then there are those times where where your thoughts run, and then fear creeps back in, and you feel that maybe I'm not being safe enough, that maybe faith in the universe and everything will work out okay, and not having more security, more investigation, more concern is warranted. And really, I think it's because I'm not responsible enough, or because I'm lazy. And so I just, have this laissez-faire, blase attitude about let it flow. And that is not the smart way to manage one's affairs.
Not necessarily. It might be a great way.
I mean, that's what the Tao is called, the Great Way. It's the Great Way of power. So there's a power in the flow, but there's also, I mean, when I read Marcus Aurelius and Stoic Meditations, like that kind of basically helps me reprogram me to stop being, I guess, a nasty person, or what Alan Watts would call a prick, and be more of a gooey person. Try to be a combination of a gooey prickle.
Feel that there are things that happen of themselves in contrast to certain things that I do. I just don't have much to say about most of this. This is all stuff that I just don't deal with anymore. I have no concern for these kinds of issues. I sought enlightenment. I spent 40 years chasing enlightenment. That was fun.
So what do you think at the end of the journey? Do you think it's, I feel like it's a cognitive, or a word map, basically, of connections.
What's the question?
That after your 40 years of enlightenment seeking, you found, I mean, you may make two claims. One, that Alan Watts gave you enlightenment, but I guess what I'm inferring from what you said.
He woke me up to the possibility of waking up. I wouldn't even say that. I didn't actually know what happened to me. What I experienced at that moment was, the actual experience I had was that all of a sudden all of my stories about who I am and what I'm doing and what the world is and what I could do and what I should do, all those stories just fell away, and I was left with nothing. That was what happened to me. I didn't have any context. I didn't know who Alan Watts was. I've never heard of Buddhism or enlightenment or anything. This book fell into my life out of nowhere, and as I read it, my life evaporated. All my stories were gone, and I was left there with nothing. But like I say, I didn't know how to interpret that, really. It was scary as hell, actually. But it changed my life forever. I mean, from that moment on, I became a seeker. So that's what Alan Watts woke me up to. He woke me up to the fact that there was something more than whatever it was I had been brought up to recognize.
You know, I'm 42, and when I was in the Army, basically when I was in high school, I made a bunch of money working for ticket scalpers, and we had figured out a way how to automate Ticketmaster and get incredible tickets for incredible events, and I was selling them all on eBay and made $100,000 by the time I don't know, I was like a sophomore in high school or something. But I had all this money, but I wasn't spending any of it. I was just putting it in the bank. I didn't even know I had no desire to buy anything.
Yeah, at that age, what the fuck would you know?
Yeah, I was a very innocent person who just happened to, figure out how to use these macros on all these computers, and I was a whiz at, programming these little macros, and but at the same time, I was kind of stealing from my employer because I was doing it on the side and not informing him, and so, if I would have told him, maybe he would have made me a partner or something. But either way, I had a terrible guilt that I was like stealing from him, and I felt like a bad friend or a bad associate. Yeah. So I'm depressed or I'm anxious. And so I'm reading the Bible, and it says, you have to be baptized to go into the kingdom of heaven. I'm like, well, you know what? I'm going to put that on my calendar as a to-do list and get baptized because I feel terrible. Like, maybe this is a way to get atonement for what I did. So I got baptized by a black man, in the YMCA, who was a preacher. And I gotta say, after that, there was like a salvation or an absolution of my feelings of guilt and remorse. And then I was like in a flow state. And I went on to be in the military, go to military college, and but then I fell off the wagon. I didn't go with the flow because I got angry, and I had prejudices or bigotry, or what is it called when you don't like women or something? Misogyny. So I wasn't fully developed to really be, a universal man, or to be really respectful and understanding that all is God. So in that respect, it was my big falling off the wagon moment where I was rejecting God. So, but I just, the only reason I bring that up is because I feel like Christianity is essentially, in many ways, the same thing that Alan Watts and Zen philosophy or Taoism is really trying to do for the learner and the seeker, which is put that person into a flow state and really take them off, to basically let them fly, to stop or to basically prove to that person that life is bliss. And so it kind of goes back to like what FDR said. The only thing you have to fear is fear itself.
Well, good luck. That's all I can say. Like I say, yeah, you've got an agenda. Get on with it. It's not my agenda, but it's yours. So
I don't have an agenda. The point is Wu Wei is doing by not doing. I mean, I'm essentially, cloning Alan Watts or stealing Alan Watts, but I'm not really stealing Alan Watts because the Tao Te Ching is by Lao Tzu.
okay. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm not quite sure why you're here talking to me because I don't think I have anything to assist with in your program. Yeah.
I'm just a bee, Heron. You're just a bird.
Well, I mean, I've got a story, but ultimately,
This is just a Zen game, Heron. I mean, you know what Alan Watts says when he goes to the Zen priest and he says, tell me about the meaning of life, and he says it's a chicken. He says, no, that's not right. He goes, gabba, 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 gook, gook, gook. Like, it's just to be spontaneous. I mean, that's the only reason I'm here, to be fun and, to have some fun with you.
Well, I'm glad you're having. I find this somewhat frustrating. Yeah, all this language stuff doesn't work well with me.
I mean, I'm drinking red wine. I'm smoking cannabis, so I may be much more, frivolous or, pointless, I suppose.
Yeah. It's just like I say, all this philosophical, metaphysical talk bores the shit out of me. Really, I just have no interest in those kinds of conversations anymore.
Well, the value of those conversations is that it gets you back into the now, meaning that I have forced you to get back to the material world now because that's all important.
Back to the now. There's no getting back to the now because you cannot escape the now. Even if you think you're in the future or the past, you're doing it now. There isn't anything but now. You cannot escape now. You can think you escape now, but you're wrong.
Well, the Shin Shin Ming says there's no past, there's no future, and there's no now.
Again, there's plenty of words out there. There are millions of words that people have spoken. So what?
Well, nature mirrors the esoteric philosophy. Like a bee, for example.
Oh, really? I would think that esoteric philosophy mirrors nature.
Yes, 100%.
And again, I just don't give a shit. This whole conversation is just totally. Again, I have one point in my work these days, and it's to assist people, as I would say it, to break the identification with the voice in their head. That's the only purpose of my work these days, to set up a situation where I can assist people to realize that the voice in their head is just their language machine. It's not something I am doing.
But it's more than that, because it's not just the voice in the head. I don't like the way you put it when you say that, I gotta tell you. I think that's off-putting in my opinion, because the Tao Te Ching says, the Tao is the word, and the Bible says in the beginning was the word. So it is believed that God is the word, meaning that God is floating and circulating through words, and there's not much more than that. So when you say it's just a word or it's a thought in your head, it's much more than just a thought in the head. It's God itself. It is the mind of the universe thinking. You are that mind. That's my opinion. So, I mean,
I don't see that as a contradiction to what I just said. I think they're different maps for the same territory.
Yeah, I know. I see. That's why I agree with you, but that's why I say I think it still sounds to me like I think you need to like flower it more. It's just too abrasive, like, because it's good news. So like it has to be reframed positively, like a gospel, you know.
No, well, listen, you frame it. You do your work. I'll do my work.
I'm just a bee. I'm just a bee, and I'm a bug. I'm a fly.
Well, I don't know what my true deep nature is. I am a mystery. Language simply fails to capture whatever the fuck I is. And I'm comfortable with that. For years I was trying to figure out some way to say, capture it all in some language. I don't think that's possible anymore.
I mean, you can do mantra meditation. That's the best way to do it. You could just do Om. You could do, mantras.
That's what I've done. That was my form for. Listen, I was a big time meditator for decades, and it was an important part of my life. That was absolutely essential in whatever it is I have become. Meditation and mantra in particular, because mantras shut down the language machine. That's the sole purpose of it, as far as I'm concerned. If your mouth is busy saying uja, nemo, uja, or anything, then it can't simultaneously also be thinking, I think I'll have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for lunch. Mantras shut down the language machine very effectively.